Welcome to Athletes to Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, where we've created a platform to help athletes and other alumni network and connect with each other and tap into various resources in health and finance and career. But more importantly, this podcast is all about athletes transitioning out of sport. It's such a major issue today between health and financial literacy, careers. And we interview former college and professional athletes, and we talk about their successful journey into business leadership and entrepreneurship. Today, we're real happy to have TJ Wright. How you doing, TJ?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So TJ played college football at Ohio University, and then he played a little bit in the NFL and Arena Football League. And then he got the entrepreneurial bug. First, he said he'll tell us a little about this. He started a band. He got into some designing, went to design school. But ultimately, he is the founder of Horizon Hover, which is pretty cool. He's going to talk about the hover bikes. And then also now he's working and has a sports prep academy that he's formulating, kind of like for those out there who know IMG, something similar to that out west. So TJ, let's talk about playing sports growing up. How did that shape you leading up into college?
I think it was everything. I think sports growing up was just the culture. I think where I'm from a place called Beaumont, Texas. It was just so natural. That was just where you learned everything, where you met your best friends. They taught you your motor skills, was doing a lot of things before we even got to like formal core, I guess like team sports with a coach and everything. So sports was like super pivotal and important. Well, both playing it, learning it, and watching it on TV. I think is where you find your first heroes outside of your family. For me, definitely was in sports.
Now, was there a dream to be a professional athlete, and was it in football or another sport?
Definitely to be a professional, to be sure. It was. Well, I played 4 sports in high school. I played every sport, so it was just to go pro. Period. I think everybody thought they was going to the NBA, so I definitely wanted to go to the NBA. It was a guy named Charlie Ward. You know what I mean? I think for him, being young, he thought being a 2-sport athlete was like easier. So I thought I was going pro at everything as a little kid. You know, they had this dude, they had the decathletes, the Dan and Dan. They had these commercials for those two dudes. Yeah, so I was kind of always inspired by those people. So I just, without understanding how the mechanisms work, you know, I thought I was going to go pro and everything. Because, you know, they had Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, I think his name is Brian Jordan. So I always was trying to be a multi-sport pro athlete, actually.
Okay. And so like talk a little about Friday Night Lights. Everybody's watched the TV show, we've watched the movie. Is that a big thing in Texas where you're from?
Oh yeah, no, it's a real thing. So it's definitely a real thing. I think every city, every region of Texas has its own version. So I'm from Southeast Texas. You know, I think the Dallas area has their version, the Panhandle has their version, West Texas has their version. But the Friday Night Lights thing is super real. I think I played in front of more people in high school than we did at our home games in college. We averaged more. We had larger attendance in a lot of ways. So I think the stadium in high school had like 20,000 average attendance, but we had around that in high school. And our largest crowd in high school was like 24,000.
That's crazy. You're right. I mean, it's not as big as like the huge Division I programs, but like you said, like where you went, some of these other smaller Division I schools, they don't get crowds like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the transition out of sport. Obviously, that's what we're talking about today. But when you were in school, was there education other than like a one-day workshop where they the school work with the athletes and kind of, what's next after?
You mean high school or college?
College.
From my personal experience, not really. I think that other than, just kind of school-wise class, if you took these type of classes, then no. I think at the time we were there, the expectation was low for people to actually go to the NFL from Ohio University. At that time, we only had like one guy in the last 5 years before I got there, or something like that. A punter named Dave Zastadil was the guy that we had. So as far as preparation to handle large sums of money, that wasn't there.
And I think, now maybe they're doing a little bit more, but it's something that's definitely needed. I think that as we address these different issues, is helping those athletes. And even when they get out, like I talk a lot about where we're looking to create workshops with our resource partners where we might, run alongside and partner with an athletic department and develop additional curriculum. I talked to one guy on a podcast, I bring this up a lot, but he said, Rob, I would have loved to have like a 6-week workshop or like a mandatory class. And I realized, playing, Division I sports, especially football, it's kind of like nose to the grindstone. So, you might not necessarily think about that, but obviously in retrospect, it's probably pretty important.
Nah, it's super important. I think working with the youth is definitely hard because you have to remember in the moment they not gonna be listening to you and everybody want to be cool, but you have to like expose them to it so that when they go and get on their own, that's what I learned even from my experience. When people get on their own, they gonna start reaching and digging their memory bank. If there's nothing there, then there's nothing there, right? So you have to be exposed to it. And so I think that you're just dealing with the football players, nose to the grind. You got your own egos. You listen to your peers. So you have different things of accountability on your side as the athlete. And then I think, like I said, as the administrators or the coaches, they have to just always remember when you're dealing with somebody younger than you that you have to tell them what's best and not what they want. And you got to force feed people stuff, messages, and expose it to them at least once. And you never know what type of background your athletes are coming from. So you don't know if they've ever been exposed to this before.
Right. Does Ohio University bring back alumni? They reach out at all to say, hey, come back, and not just for the golf tournament, to be more like a mentor type figure?
I'm not sure, probably other people. Myself, I mean, when I was there, it wasn't like all sweet or whatever. I was kind of more of a focus on my goals. I was fish out of water, so we had different run-ins. We can go into detail if you want, but it wasn't always all good over there for me. So there may be other players. I do know they put some other people in the Hall of Fame. Heard from them like that.
Right. And I think it's something that's important. I mean, when we talk about alumni engagement, bringing back the athletes and not necessarily even specific to their sport. I mean, obviously it helps because, you kind of have that, when you're talking to the current players, let's say as an alumni and you're a football player, talk about football. But I think really as an athlete in general, going back to the school and talking to the athletes and knowing that, okay, here's TJ, he did make it to the next level. Let me give a little more credibility and credence to what he has to say and listen to it.
For sure. I have some teammates, one that actually stayed behind and worked with the youth, and he's one of the voices. He was actually my roommate at one point in college, and he was an NFL scout, so he's definitely been a good job of bridging that gap. Different people go back. Some of my friends go back. We always invited to the games, though. I haven't been to one yet. I do plan to go to one. But I think, yeah, it's definitely always good to go back, engage with people, especially when you've been in their shoes. So I think, yeah, myself as an individual, but all former players, have something to offer, especially like I say when you're an alumni, because you did everything that they're doing. You sat in that locker room, you did everything that they're doing. I mean, you can relate to their struggles, their joys, their victories, and all these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about networking, connecting, and it's so important. Talk about it, especially the importance while you're still playing and you're relevant.
Man, yeah, that's the big thing I think that people miss. I think everybody likes a winner. Everybody likes to get behind a young man that wants to do something in this world and with somebody that's already taking care of their stuff. And that's when you got your most influence. Because you can reach your peers, you have people younger than you that look up to you, and then you can go to the people that are older, already established. So once you are, I mean, you hot, right? You got to strike while the iron is hot. And the same people, my mom used to like tell me that the same people you meet on the way up is who you gonna meet on the way down. And so you can avoid that being, I guess, a quote unquote down. If you go around, introduce yourself. I think now they should be more incentivized because they can create their own NIL deals, right? And I don't know, you can get grandma's cookies. Somebody grandma can just make you cookies all the time or something. But I think this is super important. I think also what you miss sometimes is that your teammates, everybody's gonna go up and do something, and the people who don't go to the league or whatever are already in the real world climbing that ladder. So the game don't end just because you hang your helmet up at whatever age. So it's super important to network really inside that locker room, right? And then in the classroom, and then all around campus and all around the city, because everybody's going to do something, and everybody's going 5 years from now, it's going to be for everybody. And a lot of people are going to be in different spaces, and a lot of those people are going to actually be successful.
Yeah, and that's such great advice. I mean, I think a lot of times the athlete doesn't necessarily do that. And I've talked to agents before, and they talk about how that the athlete doesn't do it while they're playing, and then all of a sudden when they're done, they kind of expect to here's this job handed over, whatever, and not so much because they just don't have that relationship. They haven't built that. So I mean, the key there is, like you said, the teammates and going back to friends or people in college. I mean, I even take it back, and this would be something too that would resonate with you based on what you're doing upcoming with this academy, is just encouraging even at the high school level, like start you never know where your friends or their parents, your teammates, like their parents could be somebody that could help you out. I mean, I was talking to one recent podcast guest, and he was talking about how his son plays college lacrosse, and he encourages, find out what everybody does. And like, so a bunch of his teammates are kind of like going to the dad who's got a business, owns a business, of just possible internships and all that. So to definitely be keen on that.
Definitely, no, I completely agree, and I think that it's something that I learned retroactively, so I wasn't. Uh, so if that was a skill that I have now, I wish I had then, that would be that. I don't want to change much, but it definitely would have been that. And I think that you have a chance to make relationships with business owners too. Business owners have an athletic background, and the ones that don't, by default, they're in competition, and so that's a key place you can relate to. And they typically want to see athletes come in at a higher space inside the organization. So you may have a chance to, in mid management, step in to be a GM. They may even bring you in somewhere higher. Like I said, with these kids with their NIL money, they could be equity investors and things like that. They could be partners and things like that. So I definitely think that, keeping an eye open, knowing your teammates or who their family is huge. But like I said, it's a lot of different things going on. And the first thing the athlete has to do is, kind of humanize themselves to themselves and see the league or their ultimate ambitions as one part of their larger plan to be able to embrace that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then I guess, you've kind of brought it up a couple of times, like talking about NIL, and I guess it'll be interesting. Because your academy's in California. NIL is legalized in California with high school, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no. So it's one of the states where NIL is definitely legalized for high schoolers. And what we want to try to do is get them to look beyond just going viral as one of their goals, right? So you can monetize your athleticism through going viral, right? Leverage that to be an influencer, right? Micro influencer. Brands always looking for reach. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna try to teach them how to align, who they are, what they represent with their brand, and use their play on the field to kind of accelerate that. And that's kind of, we want to use the NIL, embracing social media culture, to then teach the business and the financial literacy and the curriculum there to look at themselves as you Inc. or you Incorporated, right? And so from there, you have to know all these things. You could have a spreadsheet on yourself and kind of manage it from there. But yes, we would definitely want to embrace the NIL culture that California has to offer.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like TJ's in my head here, because like as I'm thinking that you're talking about it, like I was good, going to like the NIL education and financial literacy and all that, and you're hitting on that. Because I mean, you hear so many stories of like these athletes just not understanding that, hey, you got to pay taxes, and like you said, the right way to use social media, and just you're an entrepreneur basically, as an NIL athlete, and just it's building that business, and ultimately when you do graduate, these relationships that you've built with potentially some of the NIL sponsors could parlay into careers with those companies.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, from the outside in, it's always easier said than done. Like I said, having gone through that for myself, I do know that athletes are facing a lot of things. You at a different part of your development as a person. People coming from much different environments. I think a core book a lot of people read is Rich Dad Poor Dad, but the genesis of that was that his biological father wasn't financially well versed, so he had to go and find some other dude to be his monetary father. So when you got people that's coming from that environment, I mean, you up at a cultural disadvantage, and cultural disadvantages are real. Meaning, if it's not culturally important to focus on money, then how you expect somebody to just focus on money, right? So then they have to think everything they learned. I think that when you are on the youth, when you are the youth, you learn from your peers the most. So you're gonna be getting bad advice from somebody who don't know it because they still young, right? Because I remember now that I look back, we was taking a lot of bad advice from each other, and so there's all kind of hurdles and obstacles that need to be addressed before we can expect him to fly smoothly at 35,000 feet.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's go to the quick fun questions. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch or listen to any other podcasts, with other guests. What advice, 10 words or less, would you give to freshmen in college, TJ?
Stay single.
That's the first. That's the first one we heard on that one.
Yeah. Now it's because you gotta get a good foundation. Another thing is, don't sign up for credit cards. That's 4 words or 5 words. I don't know. That's less than 10 though. Stay single. Don't get a credit card.
There you go. Okay, now let's fast forward to senior TJ.
Senior network. Make a LinkedIn page. Hit up all the coaches in your sport.
Okay, all right. These are new grounds there for TJ. He definitely brought some things up that we haven't heard before, so that's great. So let's kind of fast forward now. Let's talk about. I guess you kind of had two transitions because you would have had a transition into playing professionally from college. So maybe talk about that, and then we'll get into like once you were done with sport.
I mean, that transition, it was just a lot, you know what I mean? So it's definitely like a life-changing experience. Like your life 100% changes completely different in like 6 months. So from the last time you're in campus to showing up to camp and going train and all these things, I would describe it as an amazing whirlwind experience. You get to, so if you are, some people play the sport just to make money. Some people play it to feed their family. But if you're actually a fan of the sport that you go pro in, it's like living inside the video game. So it's like all these people you've been watching. Yeah, so people you was watching in your dorm, people you play with on the game, they standing right there, right? They're your teammates, they're your opponents. Y'all hanging out, going out. So I mean, it's just a once in a lifetime experience for sure. That nothing is the same after that. That's all I can say.
And now so let's and then let's forward after you played a couple years. Talk about that transitions, because you've gotten into some different things and entrepreneurship and all. But talk about that, like when you were done, and then maybe give some advice to athletes.
Well, I guess I'll start off kind of with the advice and love going into my story. But I think that you have to expect that there is a depression period. So I've heard that everybody basically starting to show up that everybody who stops playing goes through some dark period, whether it be 6 months or 3 years. So I've only seen one athlete say he didn't have any problem just quitting and going in and getting his next job or whatever. But the real world is nothing like your athletic world. First of all, the majority of people going to be after sports do not understand teamwork. They will say they do, but it's not the same. They're not used to being around people who think different from them. Most people live and die in a 14-mile radius of where they grew up. If you're on scholarship, you probably 1,000 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles from where you grew up. Gender-wise, race-wise, everybody not a team player. So you're going to have to be able to deal with certain obstacles. And just, the hand claps do stop and you got to be intrinsically motivated. And it's like starting over. And I think that a lot of people say sports isn't life, but I disagree. And I think that the same principles that led you to get to the pros or the scholarship, you just got to start over and go back to being that. You're a freshman in life now. I guess for my transition, it was kind of the same. I was at a couple different crossroads because you want to transition, like I said, into the so-called real world. I say the so-called real world because it's kind of fake and it's kind of rigged. So it's like a lot of stuff is already set in stone that they just not telling you. Yeah, so it's like, is that whatever? But transition to that, and then you have this thing that's like, well, if I already went pro, what else could I go pro in? So you have to decide whether you want to dream big or whether you want to just be normal, right? And just like go get a 9 to 5. Do you want to coach, right? You got these different things that you have to make a decision for yourself. You have to realize that you are behind. So then you start to realize you're behind because when I went to interviews, they was like, well, you don't have any work experience. And then it's like, well, I've been playing ball. And then that just kind of snowballed year after year. So every year they go, you don't get work experience. So how are you going to get it if you don't have it? And then, when you're trying to say the skills that you had to do qualify or translate, sometimes it's not going over well with the interviewer or those people, right? You can get a stigma. I've heard other people hear some of the things I said that they might tell you you're overqualified or somebody deserves it more, or, we know we can't pay you what you used to getting paid. And so you have to adjust to all that. And like I said, you don't have every day you not making a decision, you got to make a decision. So I'm talking about my story now. So that's what I had to
Yeah.
do. How I got to kind of where I was more, I guess the word is serendipity. As I was just trying to I just wanted to kind of decompress and be away from like football and everything. And the way football fame works is, Peyton Manning is a facially recognized figure, but football fame is like the NFL itself is so famous that if people find out you play or you played, then all of a sudden things change and it's a lot of energy that comes to you at that level. So you have a level of being an anonymous person until information leaks, right? And so with that, was meeting a lot of people. People coming like, oh, so you the football dude, and just they'll start pitching. It took me a while. It took me about 2 or 3 years to embrace even being pitched. I thought everybody was, I guess, using me. I was trying to create natural, organic relationships and just like I said, live I enrolled in art school. Like I said, I started a band. First thing I did was start the band just to explore myself. So I think catharsis, a lot of people who have any type of PTSD type of situation go to art. I do a type of music called trap rock. That was going on good. One of the band members actually passed away. And so that made me not want to do it no more. But on that journey, I started designing shoes. So I would get back to the business side. I merchandise. I didn't expect to actually sell records or be like the Beatles or nothing. But I was like, if I could sell this expensive merchandise, then we can make money. So I was trying to design high-end merchandise that could sell for $500 and above. So every 10, becomes $1,000, $10,000. Design these shoes. Then I used that as my portfolio to get into art school. Went to the Art Institute of Miami where I was doing fashion accessory design in Miami. Things were going really well because I was starting to meet people who was treating me cool, and it had nothing to do with football. So I really was liking that. From there, I was getting traction with my designs, and I came back to Houston. I was set to meet somebody who wanted to back me as a designer, and I ended up missing that meeting because I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't get in contact with him to get the directions and stuff like that. Yeah, I know, right? And so that led me to make this phone case that put a PCB chip inside of it so you can find your phone whenever you can't lose it. Because most phones are misplaced once a month inside. That got me into an incubator in Harlem. So I went to this incubator for minorities called Start 52. So I was in that. That's how I got into the tech space. Once inside the tech space, I started meeting all these people. And once it came out that I used to play football, a lot of people in that space started to pitch me that technology because a lot of startups in general and tech founders are struggling with getting products to market, getting their voice heard, and getting the meetings. So, I was just trying to, very ignorant to what I guess my gift was or the blessing that I received with my football experience, no matter how brief. But what it is, I can get meetings sometimes that other people can't get just based on being a former football player. And so from that, I was constantly being invited to join people's teams and do these different things, and I was to turn it down. And then I decided to start listening, and that's kind of how we came upon things like Horizon. Met some people who had got money from the government, the DARPA funding in the 2000s, and combined their tech with my designs that I had at that time for the exterior. So I kind of, like I said, going back to what I started off with, once you get to the NFL, what else can you do that's to go pro in at a high level? So once I did the design, I kind of sat down and just brainstormed. So I often just brainstorm and try to put myself years and years out. And then just so happened somebody came with the actual hover technology to match something I had kind of on paper. Merged that together. And then from there, just stuck with it in this path of taking it to market because it's just something that was just it was fulfilling, like I said, to fill that gap. It's something I feel like for me is at the NFL level. For me, I've been looking for that fulfillment for something that's just challenging, high stakes, rewarding, and will bring the gratification, right? So it's something that can have a long-lasting impact that I would want my name on. So that's kind of rambled, but yeah.
Yeah, all cool. I mean, you're passionate about it, which is great. I mean, how would you say? And we'll talk more about Horizon in a moment, but talk about the athlete DNA, the skill set, and how that parlays into being an entrepreneur.
Well, I mean, the athlete DNA is the will to win, but the will to win is the will to prepare. So I think that's the biggest thing is that, and another thing that I've seen is that a lot of people have used the term hard, and that's supposed to be discouraging, but I feel like it's just as long as it's doable, you can go there. And if the people that go pro, I think that hard, they know that. So you got to remember 99% of athletes don't go pro, but what happens to the people who focus solely on that 1%, right? They're doing something that the 99 won't do, and that's just the hard part. And college sports is hard in general because you're also a student. I think that student athlete, that term is downplayed, and I think there are a lot of stigmas that are actually, so athletes actually have a higher GPA than regular students, but the stigma is that athletes are stupid. But it's not. You got to remember, you got 20 hours of school, and then you got 20 hours of football, and then you have one day to perform in front of 20,000 to 60,000 strangers who would also berate you if you don't perform, right? So you're dealing with a whole nother level of pressure, and you're dealing with a whole nother level of stress. And then, like I said, the will to prepare. So what about when you up at 6 a.m. clanging weights? What about when you playing hurt? What about when you having personal problems and you hurt and you're not playing good and this and that and your grades bad and this? You know what I mean? So it's definitely something that prepares you on the side that's not glamorous. So I think that's the athlete DNA, is that will to prepare, the desire to meet challenges, and the will to overcome them, and how to celebrate your own victories.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that's all. I mean, those are all key. I think key skills that entrepreneurs face, and even from a corporate world perspective, a lot of people want to hire athletes, and for all the reasons we've been talking about, the team, the leadership, the skills, the preparation, persistence, everything that goes into being an athlete is something that could definitely parlay into the corporate world, and athletes having a lot of success. They just need to get the opportunity. This is good. So let's talk about Horizon a little more. Talk about the product and what you have going there.
Yeah, so we're making hover bikes. They go 6 inches to a couple feet off the ground, using fans and electric batteries. Essentially, what it does is create all-terrain travel, right? So for the first time, you can go anywhere, and you don't have to worry about the weather. So 20% of all fatal accidents are caused by inclement weather. So we just experienced like snow in the south, record-breaking snow that hasn't happened in a long time. Regions over the rains in California, these things can immediately cause accidents, or even when people are snowed in. But now you can just go over it, so you can hover over everything. Pothole damage is how a thing get a pass, as well as it can save the rider as well as the city money that they may or may not have to fix these roads. It's typically on average is like $1 million per mile, or 4 million. I think it might be $4 million per mile of new road that now we can just hover above.
So there's no wheels. It's basically like almost being like on a, I mean, like not I would say like a skateboard, but you're on some type of a platform, and then you're raised. Does it look like a bike, or you're sitting down and
Yeah, so I think the closest thing to it would be a jet ski. So
okay,
yeah, or
okay,
a
that makes
snowmobile.
sense.
Yeah, so it looks just like that, but now you are contactless. It's a frictionless experience.
Okay, that's cool. And is it something that is sold retail? Is it sold just online? How do you go to market with it?
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna be direct to consumer. We are exploring working with potentially some distributors. We're talking with them, see what it is. But right now, we're direct to consumer. You have to get it directly from us on our website. We're also working with the NHTSA on how we're going to roll it out. So we do have street clearance in the state of California, VIN license plate. But also we're focused on initially working with businesses to help them move stuff. So we move people and things. So it can help transport and help people move things in a straight line more efficiently, faster, so they can make more money as well. And we'll start there, and then we'll roll it out.
How fast do you go?
As far as right now, we go about 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
But yeah, that's our max speed, but we're
So
working on.
are you actually you're on the streets and stuff like that too then, or?
I mean, so we are a nationally recognized manufacturer. We do have a VIN number. We do have license plates.
But I mean, like, are you physically like on a highway or on a a street like by cars or?
Yeah. So I'm saying, yes, it is street legal. You can take it on the street. Currently, we're in the testing phase, and we'll be launching our pre-order campaign soon. So we're not in the market yet. We're coming to the market. It's a lot of testing and things that have to happen right now. But once we get to that point, yes, people are able to take it on the road. And we want them to drive it and follow the same rules that they will with a car. So we want, responsible, safe drivers, and we'll be partnering with those people to ensure that this happens as a community.
So it becomes like the new motorcycle, right?
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, yes, you could say it like that.
That's pretty cool. Are they electric, I guess?
Yeah, fully electric.
Okay, cool. Good deal. And then talk real quick about your academy and what you're doing there. I mean, we talked a little bit about before.
Yeah, so right there, what we're basically trying to do is take some of these experiences that I laid out, things that I've experienced, seen from my peers, other athletes, heard about it, and take this and put it in one package to prepare the next generation and the future of the American workforce. So what we have is a partner with dual curriculum, which will allow our student athletes to enter college potentially as a junior by accumulating those credits in their high school form while getting personalized elite attention on their sports development. So what we're here to do is develop the next wave of, Division I NIL athletes, not only Division I, Division II, but anywhere. But we want them to be well coached, ready to step in and play. There's a new landscape what NIL has brought, and what you hear is more athletes or being left behind at the high school level as they just going into the transfer portal. To offset that, then you're gonna have to be really on it. You're gonna have to be technically sound, right? And then you have to be able to offer them more. So now you become more investable as an athlete. If it's like, hey, if this kid is technically in the classroom a sophomore, technically in the classroom a junior, right? He graduates, then he can focus on his physical development in college while not sacrificing or keeping us ineligible. He can go in and start doing his NBA, he can do different things and put himself ahead of the eight ball. And that's kind of the main thing we want to do is create this space, and then take some of the things I was just talking about, private equity. So we're going to be focused on the STEAM aspect and using sports and the sports industry to fulfill all those things, and then teaching them about things like family offices, working with private equity, venture capital, how to leverage themselves to create deal flow. As I mentioned, I was always kind of pushing people off, but I had someone from a family office sit me down and talk to me about what it means, creating deal flow. So a lot of family offices are looking for access to the sports world, and people can bring them deals. Some people might not even know what a family office is. It's typically like a family who is $25 million or more. They have so much money that they start to run their family like a business. They have to find deals and things to do with that money, because when money sits in the bank, it actually loses money due to inflation and things like that. So it's just little simple things that, I didn't know that I want them to know going in. And also we want to demystify money, which takes some of the sex appeal away, so that when they get their NIL and they go to college, they can solely focus on football. So it's not so much about money, because they already well informed on what it truly is.
Yeah, this is great, and it's so needed. I've talked about sometimes. I got another podcast called NIL for You. We just talk. It's more about the education side of things, and it's what you're doing there is great. I mean, it's something that not even for NIL, just in general, just that whole financial education that not only with athletes, but focusing on athletes here, helping them at that high school level, so that it kind of ingrains them, and puts them in a better position once ultimately when they're done, with college and playing their sport. So how can people find you?
I think the best way to find me would probably be on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So yeah, just TJ Wright on LinkedIn. It's one of the places I go. I think it's a place I trust to meet people. So definitely, over my experience, been able to lead to more credible people, and I think it's a place where everybody embraces talking about business and advancing. So that's why I personally would like to interact with people.
Yeah, that's great. And then what about what's the site for Horizon?
Well, we're in step mode right now, so we're
Okay.
gonna be releasing the site.
Nothing yet, everybody, but TJ is going to
Yeah,
share with us in the future. How about
yeah. So
your academy too? You're just kind of working on that too, right? That's
yeah,
not
so
a
yeah, all that we holding it close to the vest. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. Horizon is such an advanced endeavor that we want to take our time, get everything right. But like I said, if you go to my LinkedIn page, there's information about pretty much most of the things I'm involved in there. And I'm here to develop relationships, like was mentioned earlier. So if somebody was really really trying to get more information, then you just talk to me about it.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you can find us at alumnidirect.com. The podcast is on our YouTube channel and across all the podcast networks. And I really encourage people to listen and follow and share with others. It's the valuable lessons that come out of each podcast. I always talk about it. It's every week, especially when I go to edit the podcast, just the information that TJ provided today and some of our other guests is just great, and we just want to help as many athletes as we can. I think it's a great vehicle. So TJ, it's been great, and look forward to speaking again.
All right, same. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.